There we go. All right, so thanks for coming to our Google Classroom learning time. Again, like similarly to our Seesaw meeting, we are going to really hold this meeting to ensure that we are all kind of on the same page using Google Classroom consistently. If you do have a question, we're going to ask that you share those questions either via chat or you can write them down and ask them at the end so that we can ensure that Comey shares everything that she needs to share in terms of what we are hoping everyone learns when and if we go back to distance learning, and or if you want to use Google Classroom, and I think all of you do use Google Classroom within your own classrooms. So other than that, Comey, you can take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. First and foremost, I wanted to go through Google Classroom and the reasons why the school is using Google Classroom and whatnot, and not in too much detail. So let me go ahead and present this. And I'm going to go back and forth between the slide deck here and a mock classroom setup of Google Classroom, so I can actually demonstrate to you Google Classroom setup and actually a list of items that will be in use. So it'll be going back and forth. All right, so just wanted to let you know how this will go in training wise. I wanted to also let you know that this is in conjunction with how things will roll and the purpose of this whole Google Classroom setup and why things are happening. Why Google Classroom and why Google Classroom has been chosen. There's so many platforms out there right now for distance learning, and there's so many that we can choose from. Well, first and foremost, Google Classroom is free. It is highly dependable. Google Classroom, one of the benefits of it is that everything is in one place. We do find that it's extremely beneficial to have everything in one place, especially for distance learning right now. It is versatile, using everything in G Suites, so for Google Suites, and having everything for Google all in one place as well, but also being able to load up different videos, different types of different types of videos and different sorts of links, being able to load them in different capacities all into one area. We do find that very friendly for the students and parents that are helping the students. And also it's very convenient and efficient. So especially since we do have Gmail accounts for our students, we find that Google Classroom is very helpful. So a student can log on to Google Classroom from anywhere this can be very friendly for a student that is not using their Chromebook. So when a student can log on, especially from an e-learning, or not e-learning, from a distance learning standpoint, it is very friendly for a student to memorize their password. So it does help with that capacity, and it's that goes with the convenience sake. Google Classroom goes with the email address, with the password, with the student from anywhere. It can go from a handheld device to a Chromebook to a personal computer, a PC, in the home. And so this is extremely well used in the home with the parent as well. The main obstacle was found in the survey that was taken from parents very recently. The parents were finding that, especially parents with multiple students at Quest, parents of multiple students were finding that it was difficult from shifting from one framework to another. So we found that parents were having a hard time from shifting from one type of framework, from one Google Classroom to another framework. So the solution was, well, why not mainstream it? So every Google Classroom looks the same. And so that's why this training is actually taking place. So we decided to get a few teachers together and said, let's make some decisions on how the classroom should look. So what makes sense? What makes it easy? So how should the main areas of the classroom look to make it simple? Every teacher has a way of teaching. We're not taking that away, but let's mainstream the way Google Classroom actually looks. So when you open up Google Classroom from one classroom to the next classroom, the Google Classroom will look the same, but the teaching is not the same, obviously. That way, when the parent goes into one classroom to the next classroom, everything is exactly the same. So we're mainstreaming the Google Classroom for the parent more than anything. That way, when a parent goes in, they have everything the same format, just to help them out. So when we go into Google Classroom, we get to choose as a school the areas that we want to focus in on. Google Classroom has a lot of capabilities as a school that we get to use. We chose, of course, 3 main areas to focus in on. 3 of them are announcements, classwork, and grades. We want the look to be mainstreamed, as I said earlier. We don't want anything to be shifted too much so the parent doesn't get too confused. You know, there are many ways to make this shifted. There are many, many ways. So for example, Bernice and I, this past distance learning experience that we just had, we found there are many variations to do this. There are many variations just to make an announcement or just even classwork or grades. And so when you have teachers going in there and doing things their own way, there are many ways that a parent the output for a parent to view. So it could be extremely confusing. So that's why we are trying to make this method a little more mainstreamed. So first and foremost, let's go into the announcements. And this is where I'm going to start going back and forth. So for announcements, first and foremost is the schedule of the day. We are asking the schedule of the day for teachers to come up with a schedule of the day and have it posted every day for the student. And this is actually a direct link for the schedule of the day. And I'm going to switch here to show you a schedule of the day in a moment. A schedule of the day is basically going to show and include a snapshot of the day for the student and the parent, if the parent is there to wanted to see what the snapshot would look like. We are asking to have it posted the night before, especially for those parents that like to map out their days, to give a view of their day, including breaks, specials if you would like, and also links to live specials as well. So let me go ahead and show you this in a moment. Let me go ahead and switch over. I'm sorry about this. It just takes a moment to share this. And so this is the schedule of the day. Just an example of a Tuesday schedule that I had during distance learning. And you can make this any variation that you would like. This is just an example of something that I used in 2nd grade. Of course, this is a 2nd grade level, 2nd grade fonts, 2nd grade colors. This shows the time increment of each class that I had. I had the morning meeting, so it has the topics. It has a Zoom information right here with the Zoom link embedded right directly into the schedule of the day. All the Zoom information in here with the Zoom passwords. Of course, my students already knew my Zoom password, so I didn't include it for everything. Of course, I included it for the last one, but right here is a Google Meet password link for drama. I also indicated the break for my students as well. Parents really appreciated that. Of course, they needed it for 2nd grade. And so I did include that. This is a schedule of the day. I do have a copy of this included for you in this Google slide deck, and I will be including this as an example And so this was approved. So this is something that was similarly used across second grade as well. This was something that I did not derive myself, just to let you know. This was something that was derived by, I want to say, student-led. Students actually needed this for my second grade class, and this is something that I led. It was almost parent-led as well. Parents actually needed something of this for their students, and so it was not something that you know, I took off of anything else. It was something that parents needed, students needed, and it was a culmination of what was needed. So this is an example of what is being asked of in the announcements. So that is an example of what is asked to be posted in announcements. And after a while, you'll see that, you know, it does get much easier. You know, Mondays look the same, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Also, announcements throughout the days. And so let me actually go into the mock training class. And this is where I'm going to step in to show you how to post an announcement. Just in case for those that, you know, have not done this all the time or done this recently. It's pretty simple to do this, and Google Classroom makes it very easy for teachers to do this. You kind of go into the main area of Google Classroom. This is your home page for the classroom, and you click right here. It says share something with your class, and you share something with your class right here. So you can go in here, and you can hit post, or you can hit schedule right here. So if you would like to post something the night before, you hit schedule, and you could post something the night before. So I could post something for tomorrow. I could say Friday at, I could say 12 p.m. And I would just basically do this out and schedule it for 12 p.m. I hit the schedule button, and this actually pops, just to make sure that I've done this correctly, I have saved announcements, and this is where I can see where I've saved it for scheduled announcements. Now, if I would like to delete this because I don't want this anymore, I simply X this out. There you go, I've deleted it. Okay. I can trash this as well. Oh, sorry, I delete this way in the trash. The way I can also put up a file is I can say hello class, and I can insert a file. For example, if I have my schedule of the day, I go into the drive, and it takes a while to load because I'm in layers right now. And here's my schedule. I double click this, and here is my schedule of the day, and I post it. And of course, I can schedule this out just like I did before. You might want to see the other options that are here. There's a link. You can directly link a website if you have a file, or also a YouTube. One of the things that I actually appreciate about Google Classroom is that sometimes when I am in a hurry and I don't have a YouTube link completely ready off the top of my head, I can search YouTube. So for example, I can't remember the book title that I really want. So I could say book with, what is that? Book with no images? What is that? I can't remember that book title. I could say book with no, I can't remember that book title. I can just look it up. Oh, I don't remember. Book publishing, no, that's not it. Book, oh, I can't remember. I can look up the name of the book that I'm looking for, book with no pictures. Book with no picture. Oh, there it is. There's a read aloud with the book title, book with no pictures. Okay. And there's a read aloud for the book with no pictures right here. And there's one right here on Amazon. So I actually want the read aloud for the book with no pictures. And of course, as a good teacher, of course, I would probably review this before posting anything up, because you never know, right? So I probably would not click this and post it up for my students to view right away. But just in case you would like that, you can do that as well. All right, I'm going to cancel this because I don't want to post this right now. All right, I have posted up 2 examples just to let you know the 2 ways, just to show you that you can move around posts. For example, I have the schedule of the day here. I put up an announcement throughout the day here as a surprise for my students, and I want them to see this first because here's my landing page. Here's a page that they would see, right? Well, what if I want my students to open my classroom and I want them to see my read aloud because I had a teacher, the YouTube read aloud? Well, what I would do is enter the 3 dots and move this to the top. So here it is. I've moved it to the top. Now, what if I want to edit something that I have already put up there? I edit. And now I say, hey, surprise. I go ahead and edit it. There you go, done. And of course, the more you use it, the more you find out little tricks here and there. You can delete it completely. You can copy the link. So if a student, like my 2nd graders, were really good to point out, I will make errors in spelling. And I can say, oh, no, I didn't. Oh, yes, I did. Good job. I did that on purpose. Good for you. Then I would go and edit my issues and writing and typing and whatnot, and I would go ahead and edit things last minute. All right, and then of course when you update anything on your stream in your thread, it would show you anything that you have done. So one of the things that I do want to make note of here is that the students are not allowed to create their own announcements or comments on your threads. And there is a way to change this. When you are setting up your classroom, you go into that wheel. So let me go back, sorry. This wheel right here is your settings wheel. And you go into settings and you go into general and you go in here and you are able to click on the stream and you click on here and you say only teachers can post and comment. All right, post or comment, sorry. So you click on this and that way the student is not allowed to post up anything you know, on their own. You will have students posting up random commentary or announcements if you do not do this. They will quickly realize they can do it and they will take advantage of it. So even the 2nd graders have done this to us. So they're quick to realize it and they will do it. So, you know, please make that a note to yourself because it's happened to me and Mrs. Lau. So, all right. All right, so next up, we have, just a second, I just want to make sure I've covered all my bases here. Oh, yes. And of course, I think Mrs. Lau, we agreed, do we want to open this up for questions? We do have, do we want to open up Google Classroom for questions? For assignment questions, do we want to let the assignments, and I'm going into classwork right now, but for assignments, they can ask questions, correctly? Is that correct?
Right, students are still able to comment and comments on assignments that you have posted. We're just trying to limit the off-task work by not allowing students to post their own assignments or announcements.
Right.
Unless, of course, there's a special circumstance, of course, that you would change your settings back and forth as needed. But as Becky mentioned, you know, our students all use comments for our assignments very productively and asked us comments all day long, right? Maybe a little too much about what they need.
And they were almost chatting. They were chatting with each other. They were doing it very inappropriate and taking up a lot of space on there as well. So we decided just to take down the chat option, or not the chat option, the announcement comment options on the announcements portion. On classwork though, they are able to ask questions on their assignments. And so, you know, of course you can deem that appropriate and let them know. Next up, we have the classwork portion of Google Classroom. For daily posts, there is a method to this that we want for titling our assignments. For daily posts, there is a way to, of course, go about this to make sure that every assignment is titled appropriately and according to some sort of organization. So you create and you go down to assignment. And as I've noted here, we have all wanted to mainstream this because there's so many different ways to title an assignment. And so to make sure that parents and students can follow the assignments, to make sure that, you know, if they're falling behind and wanting to backtrack and wanting to make sure they're following along, they can go through and keep track of their assignments. We wanted to make sure that all the assignments follow the main title. So we want the day of the week in all capital letters and with the date following. So it's right here, Thursday, June 11th, or the date after. So it'd be Thursday with the date. So if we were to do this, it would be, for example, if we did this for today, and then with the instructions following. And the best
I'm doing the date that way, or writing out like June 18th. Do you remember?
I believe we said the dates in this manner.
Okay.
That's what I believe that we said in our meeting.
Okay.
So Laura, Kathy, do you remember?
I think I have it in my notes, so I can look back. And
Okay.
Just so everyone knows, I do plan on sending, with the help of Call Me, and sending kind of like a cheat sheet of what we went over.
Right.
If
I can send out the slide deck as well. So,
Good, Laura.
and I could correct this later at a later date. It could be either this or this. Okay. So, just so the day of the week is first for students to follow along. And then of course, for those that are following along with the notions of all the capabilities that are available in Google Classroom. We have all these capabilities down here. This is the thing that sometimes users of Google Classroom tend to forget, that there are capabilities in here, that please utilize these, they're available. And sometimes, you know, we get into the routine of using the same functions all the time. And of course it gets monotonous, right? Over and over again, you're using the same capabilities over and over. And to change things up and spice things up a little bit, I started using, you know, YouTube videos, and sometimes I started using different links just to make a variety, just so it's not the same old thing for students, especially in the distance learning format. Sometimes, you know, variety helps the student make it a little more interesting. Also with the creations of the Google Forms, I found, you know, using the different variations, they're all here. Why not? And so that was the G Suite functionalities of having these right at our fingertips. And this is the essence of Google Classroom and having them here. Why not have them? Why not use them? I found it easier, and just as a user-friendly anecdote of my own, to create my Google form first and then embed it in here instead of creating it. You can go either way. I just found it from a user standpoint is to use, you know, create my Google form and then link it directly into the form here in my Google Drive. You can create it definitely as a last minute standpoint. If you say, hey, it'd be great to put a little mini form, and just go ahead and create one last second. There are also really great functionalities here in Google Form where the student can actually see if you have a multiple choice, and actually the student can see how their peers are going about, you know, their quiz, or how they rated their, you know, the book. You know, for example, if we're having a multiple choice or how they rated a true or false quiz or whatnot. So there are many ways to do this, use the functionalities. So I would really, go ahead and utilize these. So one main thing also is the due dates. All work must have a due date. We are strongly wanting to make sure that when you go into the Google Classroom and you create any type of assignment, on the right-hand side, make sure there is a due date of some sort here, because if there's no due date, is starting some utter confusion, and that was in the survey as well. There's feedback about that students are not having a due date. It causes a blank space in their calendar. And so not having a due date, and also with the points, we are still under, it's still under discussion whether the points are out there or not, whether the grade level partakes or not. It's still, the points are under, they're for 4 points. Some assignments may be ungraded. Check ungraded for that. All right, there is an ungraded space for that. So for example, in my class, the journal entries, if it was a reminder, I would put in the title, reminder. I would say reminder, journal entry, or I would say optional, and then I would say ungraded. So at least the student and the parent knows that it's ungraded. So if you have a point total in there that says ungraded, at least the parent knows it's ungraded. So that parent and the student is not under pressure. All right, so at least have some sort of detail in there of that sort. Also, please, we have sources in here to show our second grade parents on how to turn in assignments, but maybe in the first class, show students how to turn in assignments correctly in Google Classroom. Just like in the classroom, in the physical classroom, in the brick and mortar classroom, and at Quest in your classroom, you would show students a turn-in bin. I know Kathy does a really good job at this. So you would show students how to do this in Google Classroom. All right, so they know how to do this properly, because if they don't know how to do it, then it's going to show, you're going to see it right away. We need to make sure that students know how to do this. Actually, they need to turn it in. If they don't turn in the assignment, you're not going to see it. It's going to go into the missing category very, very fast. All right, next up we have grades. The grades we do have the grades in here, which is a great, great tool in here. And once you turn something in, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in there. So I'm going to edit this assignment, and I'm going to have points possible. I'm going to stick to my rule. Due date is tomorrow. Topic, I haven't created a topic, but I'm going to go ahead and assign this. Let's see, assign. And I'm going to go ahead and assign this. Once I go into grades, the students will see it, and I don't have any students in there, so I won't show it. But you, as a teacher, will see this as upcoming, and the student will see this as their to-do. And so once you hit that assign, it will travel over to the grade book. And if I had a student in there, it will show that up as in the grade book, sorry. And so with the grade book, there are 3 categories that it'll turn into. So it'll be turned in, missing, or returned. And so when you have turned in, it will show up as a weekly summary as turned in for the student, missing, or returned. For example, the student has turned it in. The parent and the student knows that they've turned it in because they've hit that button and turned in. It's magical. Missing means that student might have done it, but they have not pressed and missed it, the turned in button. Well, that indicates to the student that there's something going on. It indicates to the instructor that it's missing. So it's in limbo. So the student might say, well, I did the work. Well, the teacher says, well, you haven't turned it in yet. And returned basically means that it was turned in, but the instructor has returned the work without a grade, or maybe with a temporary grade. So it's all dependent on the instructor and the student. And so that all goes back to 3 categories. And the decision to share this weekly summary is still to be determined, because we are not sure if we want parents to know this on a weekly basis or not. Mainly because, do we want this information to be shared on a weekly basis, on a daily basis? What is a rate? And so this is still under discussion, and this will be shared to you by before school begins. How much information are we ready to disclose right now? How much is too much information? How much is too little information? Because of distance learning, how much makes sense to share right now? Also, provide daily feedback, feedback directly into the assignment. So for example, we have spelling tests. We provide those on a weekly basis, depending on how many you actually have. We can do that, with the capabilities that we have with Google Classroom. Same thing as if you were to write directly onto an assignment. So with that capability, do we really need to provide a weekly summary? So that's why the weekly, feedback, it goes hand in hand with the to be determined, and that will definitely take place. And Bernice might have something to say about this to be determined.
No, thank you for clarifying that so well, Colby.
Yeah.
I wanted to add that I do know that some specialist teachers were providing actual scoring and things like that, utilizing Google Classroom. When Comey and I and a few other teachers have met, Laura included and Kathy, we decided, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we were not going to use Google Classroom as a way for parents to go and look at grades. We thought that was offering more information than what we would do in their normal classroom setting. And so we had kind of settled in that, yes, we would share a summary of what has been turned in or missing, but the actual scoring and sharing that on a consistent basis is something that we did not feel was, I don't want to say necessary, I can't think of the right word right now. But as of right now, we're asking, or sharing with specialist teachers, that's not something that we are asking you all to do. There will be some other ways for sharing of information, but using the Google Classroom gradebook and we tried to look up if we can do it as like not secret, but a way where we can hide it and not show parents, so that you can utilize it as a teacher where and parents cannot see it, but that's something that's still
right. And the grades here, this is not for grades, this is just for the weekly summary. So this is just for the summary for saying turned in, missing, or returned. So that was just for that portion of it. So, do we want to do the weekly summary for turned in, missing, or returned, or not? So not for the grading itself, like for every single little itty bitty assignment. And so, are we, I mean, I don't think they need every single itty bitty assignment. So I completely agree with that. So yeah, no, I don't think that whole portion of the grades right here, we're trying to we're not using this at all. And so, this portion, they will be able to see it, but we're not going to use this, because they're going to sit there and say, well, my kid did turn it in, because they're going to see this right here. The minute you put in an assignment, they will pop up right here for upcoming. It will pop up. So when I get to read it, when I get to see it and a student turns it in, if the student does not turn it in and marks it as missing, and so it does have a weekly summary that gets sent, and so we have to either block it or not. And so that's a decision that we do need to make. And I believe that was something that was to be determined. So that's what I was indicating. And so we do need to make that decision if we need to send it or not. And so in a way, is it something that we need to send or not? So that was basically I believe that was a decision that was still needed to make. As in resources for teachers, there's a cheat sheet available for everything that I just covered. It's pretty basic, not so grand in the sense where there are not many tricks or anything. For parents, the only parents that are getting a parent guide is second grade because they're the only parents that are new to Google Classroom. All the other parents, if they've already used Google Classroom or already gone through second grade, they've already used Google Classroom. Of course, if they're brand new to Quest Academy, have never used Google Classroom, they're an exception to this. And so they can definitely talk to someone who needs to get the parent guide, or you can definitely grab one. So they can get a quick demo. But you know, there are so many resources out there available. And so you can definitely, you know, grab one for them. And it's pretty useful and easy to use. So I'm going to switch this over and see if you have any questions for anyone.
I thought we decided something in terms of topics, did we not?
Topics for?
In utilizing topics, I'll look that up. I can't necessarily look because I'm recording my screen right now, but actually I'm going to pause the recording. Another thing I think that is really useful for specialist teachers is that for button on the Google Classroom where you can assign an assignment to multiple classrooms. So for example, if you have two, when you have two second grade classrooms, you can assign it to both classrooms so that you're not going and doing this repetitively to all the classrooms you need to assign something to.
Mm-hmm.
It is a really nice feature where as soon as maybe Comey looks up this one topic thing that we were talking about, she can show you.
So create topic. So when you create a topic for classwork, so for example,
I think I just saw that we did say to create it by date. No, maybe
so
not.
We said
create topic by date.
By date. So we said this.
And the create the topic. Okay.
Are you meaning the subject in the title line, or are you meaning the segment that allows you to group all your assignments into a unit or module by giving it a topic inside the assignment?
Say that one more time, Laura.
When you're saying the word topic, do you mean something that you're typing into the title line of every assignment, or do you mean that box?
No, that box, yeah, the box topic there. It says no topic. I thought we decided that everyone would add the topic. If you go to topic really quick and create a new topic for each date, so that when there was, when students are able to go back to an assignment, they can go and look and just click on the topic versus scrolling through the entire feed for that date.
Tell me if you go back to the screen you were just on before, that had the assignment. It's on the right side.
All right, so I'm going to jump in a little bit too. So just to expand on what
click on Thursday's assignment.
Yeah, click on the assignment you made there.
Yeah.
And edit it. Go to the three dots, edit.
And that's on the right, way on the right. See where it says topic?
Oh, got it.
Right, so I think we decided to create those topics by date so that students can reference and go back to an old assignment without having to scroll all the way down. So that is one thing that we are asking specialist teachers and classroom teachers to do, is to arrange by topic in addition to the title. And I'll make sure that we clarify that when we do our cheat sheet. Laura, go ahead.
Yeah. That was not my understanding because, for example, I am reusing assignments that I've used in previous years. And so my topics are already filled in with my unit, like Lord of the Flies, Civil War, something like that. I don't know if anybody else is doing that. Because we also talked about fifth grade really having one foot in both camps, and that it's possible if fifth grade is the only grade for whom some of these consistencies don't work, then we could flip ourselves to be more consistent with middle school. But I'm So what we're thinking here then is, so just to expand on what they said before, one of the pictures that we got from the feedback and from students in our own classrooms is the situation where if they're using Google Calendar to organize themselves, to know what to do when they're at home at night or where to go during the day, the calendar can get really full for them. In fact, I never even knew that each day on the Google Classroom calendar had a scroll bar. So you can scroll down on Tuesdays and scroll down on Wednesdays. I never knew that before because I never had the calendar all that full. But for example, if somebody has, if all the homeroom and all the specials connections, assignments and stuff are going on that calendar, then they can get a list that takes up more than the whole page. So they are having a hard time, or they did last year, have a hard time deciding between, was this classwork that I already did during the day with my teacher, or is this homework? Or is this where it included the link to something that I need in order to do the homework? So that's what we're trying to envision. When the student gets home at the end of class, does their calendar kind of match up and make it easy for them to see what their map of independent work looks like? So one of the things that can be done to keep that calendar from taking up so much space is to have every assignment title be as short as possible, because then it will, every single one of them starts with the word assignment, and then the next thing you know, you're into 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines on their calendar, if that made any sense.
Becky?
So are we not going to identify any assignments as far as which subject they belong to then? So, because like my students would go and they would say, well, I want to work on my science now, or I want to work on social studies now. But it seems to me, if I'm understanding this correctly, that it's going to be a whole lot harder for them to find their social studies assignment as opposed to their language arts or whatever assignment if we are not labeling it anywhere, unless I'm misunderstanding this.
No, I'm sorry. Let me detail that a little bit better. So they're very, let me detail this in a little bit better way. And I totally messed this up just a little bit. All right. Let me just create a new one here.
Does someone want to answer a question while Comey looks into that?
Yeah, you include the subject after the day and date. So
Yeah.
I would create a subject that would say Thursday, June 6th, June, whatever day it is. And then it would say makerspace, or then it would say library. So you include those, the day and the date are the first part, and then the word.
Right, so everything's listed underneath.
Whatever you want to call it, assignment.
Right, so everything's listed in the
Language
instructions.
arts, whatever.
All right, so all the assignments go into one thing.
No, it does not have to be that way. That is not what we're standardizing.
Right.
Comey is showing you one way where you can have all your subjects under one assignment. But as Brenda said, you can add this, you could say Thursday, 6/18 language arts, and then list your assignment. Because as you know, you might have more than one language arts activity, right, for that day. So this is one way that Comey is showing you, but you can also list that.
So I might even combine language and literacy, because they actually go together that day, you know, and then might even do a completely different assignment for Thursday. Like I have another part, like another one that says Thursday 6/18 for math, because it's lengthy and I want to put a link in there, you know. And so I might have 3 different Thursday 6/18s up there. All right, and so you can have as many as you want, you know, so this way, you know, things are just, everything is labeled for that date.
Kathy?
As Becky is talking, it's making me think it might be very helpful if we talk to the teachers below us, like as a partnership, Cynthia and I talked to the second grade teachers to learn a bit about what their experience was in distance learning and what was used. And then like fourth grade, find out what we were doing, just so you know where your children came from, kind of just to give you some reference. Because the students might be all on the same page and have this lingo, and then now I'm gonna get them and I'm doing something different, you know, so it might be good just to kind of have some time to talk with, as a grade level to the grade level below, to hear that, to make that transition too.
Definitely.
Right.
And remember, everything doesn't need to be posted as an assignment. It could be posted as a material or a question, or, but we are asking that you always include the date into whatever title that you are doing, so that it is a little bit more ease for the user, for the student and the family, when they are trying to find something. Go ahead, Kathy.
The last thing I wanted to say, when it came to assignments for third grade, I think Cynthia and I feel that using their assignment notebook and then physically writing it down is still the best way. And because this is the year we're working on different organization, like every grade has their, you know, milestones. And so I think Cynthia and I found it's very helpful if they use that assignment notebook and physically write it down, and then they can see how it organizes. And but I guess if we're distance learning, I should remind the special teachers that they have that there as well. And then for them, they wouldn't have that classroom with all the calendar. They just need something simple.
I have a question about what to do when a student turns in an assignment. Every time a student turns in an assignment, I have been looking at it, making comments on it, and returning it to them. And then it's off of my to-do list. I mean, the only people who are really confused about that was first grade. I would give them like, what do I have to change? And I would say, you don't have to change anything. I'm just returning it to you with these positive comments on it. But is that how you are using the return function or not?
Are you asking me or everybody?
Everybody.
I have not used the return button for all of my assignments. Me personally.
Right.
Okay, well, second graders get it because I return stuff to them all the
Yeah, I
time.
didn't know they are used to some of the return stuff.
It's really hard to explain this, but I think one of the things we were talking about is consistency on kind of a basic level. And then as the kids get more mature and more experienced, a layering on perhaps of using more features or being more sophisticated or complex, or switching to abbreviations or something like that. So I can't think of an example right now, but let's just say the date. Okay, so if we're putting the date in the subject line, or then if the consistent thing is every student will always be able to know the applicable date, then for the younger grades, you might be writing out the whole word. And this is not what we agreed on. I'm just seeing if this makes sense to you guys. The younger grades might write out Thursday, June 6th. And a third grade might write THJ6 or something. And fifth grade might say, well, the date already appears for them there, so I'm not going to include the date at all. That would mean in our guidelines, we're not saying the date has to go in the title, but we're saying every grade level has a system. Well, I don't know, we're getting away from consistency here, but do you get what my point is?
Yes, I do, Laura.
Like fifth graders will say, why did you write, I mean, they say this to me, why did you put the date in the title, Mrs. Nadeau? You know that we can see it right there. Yes.
Because I felt like it.
Well, because a fifth grader can look at three things and figure out which ones go, and the second grader is still learning that.
Right.
So if you're not returning it, how are you figuring out which students you are looking at their work for? If it's all just in the big turned in, like, are you still using a paper grade book?
So I was using a grade book that I was sharing with parents every day of what was completed and not completed. I did not share grades, but I did share of incomplete, missing, and completed work. I did not use the Google Classroom feature, although we are seeing if we should consistently use the Google Classroom gradebook to share completed and missing.
And just to repeat, we're saying for distance learning, when everybody
For
is at
distance
home, distance
yes.
learning. Yeah.
Well, for me, not all assignments are those that can be turned on a computer. So,
They get a done button. They can either hit turned in or I think it says done.
right.
Right,
So,
Kathy, which is why I actually had a separate Google Excel spreadsheet.
right, which is why I had my grade book and,
Mhm.
right. But I did try to communicate with parents and students what was turned in and what was missing.
So how are special teachers going to do that? Like every week I'm going to communicate with parents who turned it in and who didn't?
No.
I mean, I've just been returning it.
I think that's something that, and that brings up a good point, Brenda. I don't think we've discussed it fully yet, but we don't expect specialist teachers to, especially if you're only meeting, if and when through distance learning, only meeting with them once or twice a week, right? That you would be sending this out weekly, because that is quite a huge task, but probably we'll have to, I don't have the answer yet for you, but we will figure that out. But I'm going to just stop the recording. Thank you, Comey, so much for sharing all that information.
Comey.
We'll also, you make beautiful presentations, by the way, and I always tell you that. And so we'll make sure that we send out to everyone what we went over, a little cheat sheet of information. There's so many things you can do with Google Classroom that we didn't go over, but we wanted to make sure, as Comey mentioned, that we went over the things that needed to be consistent across grade levels. So thank you so much, Comey.